As new female entrepreneurs, we all have fear and things that can hold us back and get in our way, right? Even me, even now. Well, recently, I just heard from seven-figure female entrepreneurs who also experience those same fears, and they share how they step beyond them to grow their businesses. And in this episode, I share my takeaways, so you'll definitely want to grab a pen and paper and take some notes. So listen in. Hi, friend. Welcome to Step Forward and Speak. Are you ready to conquer doubt and believe in the power of your voice? Because confidence doesn't hide, play small, or diminish its abilities. It actually steps forward. I'm Terry Mullen, mom to 4 adults, wife of 34 years, a midlife entrepreneur, and your confidence coach, who turned self-doubt into confidence and courage to speak, write my book, start a podcast, and launch my business. Now, I empower other amazing women just like you to do the same. I share practical strategies to crush fear, boost confidence, and use your voice to create greater impact and income as a new entrepreneur. I have walked this path, and I'm here to empower you every step of the way. Let's step forward. Many of you are probably familiar with Cathy Heller. She has an amazing podcast called Abundance Ever After. But she hosted a summit called Her Turn to Podcast, and it was a 2-day summit. I was only able to go to one, but wow, it was so powerful. So many of these women that I've been following now all these years, and then I learned from some new women that I wasn't familiar with. But the cool thing is that there was such a collaboration and coming together with all these different women from all different walks of life. All their different podcasts are different, but they all have businesses. Just hearing their stories about why they started and how they started. And, most of them just dove in super messy, because that's what we all do. We all really have no idea what the heck we're really doing when we start. And then just to hear their journey about growing their business and how they arrived at the place they are now with these 7-figure businesses. So it was super empowering. And a little background for those of you that don't know, I took my very first course from Cathy Heller. Back then it was called Made to Do This, just at the beginning of the pandemic. And we went through all these different things, just kind of figuring out what we wanted to do next. And one of the last things that she had us do was do a trailer for a podcast. And so I remember sitting in my car for literally hours with my iPhone and my headphones. Back then you could just actually plug them into your phone. And I just spoke into the microphone, and I did it over and over and over. And that first trailer I recorded so many times, but when I listened back to my voice, I didn't hate it. And it kind of sparked this fire inside of me. And I was like, wow, this is kind of fun. I knew I always wanted to write a book, and I went on to do that. But the podcast was a surprise and delight. And that passion for it has never gone away. I started just by putting myself out there, didn't even tell anyone I was doing it. I played that small, and I just kind of started sharing my story, kind of who I was, how I arrived at this place, who I kind of wanted to help, and it's just continued to grow. So long story short, now, I've learned a whole lot along the way. I've learned definitely what not to do, and number one is don't play small. Don't not tell people that you're doing this. Tell everyone, let them know that you're doing this, that you're trying to make a difference in the world. And you don't have to do it perfectly. You can start messy. We all do. It's just all part of the process and part of the journey. You won't do it perfectly. It's impossible. The only way we learn is by actually doing and by making those mistakes, and be willing to be vulnerable and be willing to make them. And then learn from other people that have gone before you, and learn how to get better. And the way we get better is, number one, by doing, and number two, by just practicing and doing it over and over and over. There's no magic. That's just it. But I've really been reflecting and thinking about all these different things that I learned from these amazing women. Number one, these are my people. This is my tribe. I have just been reminded that my mission is to empower other women, to help you find your voice and believe in who you are. Believe that you are worthy, because we can't move forward in our life if we can't even speak our truth, if we don't even know who we really are, if we're afraid of disappointing others by what we say, right? So I have learned that my journey has really been about finding my voice along the way and speaking up and speaking what I really want. And what I want is a 7-figure business. What I want is to be on stage one day with these women sharing how I got here and really being a light in other women's life, being a source of encouragement and hope to tell you that it's possible, that you can start this and do this no matter your age. And podcasting, like books, doesn't have a shelf life. Social media is gone instantly. That post that you made is there for that moment in time. And yes, you can go back and look at it. But as far as other people seeing it, I don't know, it might disappear, right? Maybe Facebook or Instagram will decide to take it down. But your podcast actually becomes a legacy, like a book. It's who you are. It's the words you say. And it's a treasure. And you're a treasure. Your thoughts, your ideas, your dreams, your goals, they're all inside of you. And I want to encourage you to open up that treasure box. Let your light shine. Rediscover who you are. Who did God really make you to be? What's your next purpose? I have an acronym that I say called STEP. Every morning on my walk, I say it. S is strong. I am strong. T is tenacious. I am tenacious. E is empowered. I am empowered. And P is God has a plan and purpose for my life. Say that to yourself, because God does have a plan and purpose for your life. There's magic in you. There's only one you. Out of all the people in the world, there's only one you. Trust that, lean into it, and believe in your own gut intuition, that spirit that probably continues to whisper to you what it is that you really want to do. Don't hide that dream and goal. Don't play small. It's time to get out of the sandbox. And as I said, for me, my takeaways from this conference and this summit is one day I will be on that stage. For many of you, if you don't know, my word for this year is speak, not only in my own life, but to empower other women to find the courage and confidence to speak themselves, not only behind a microphone or on camera, but in their own life. Number 2, I'm no longer willing to play small. I'm not going to stay in the sandbox anymore. And number 3, I am all in. I am all in to help you find your voice as a new female entrepreneur so that you can have greater impact and income. Yes, I am here to empower new female entrepreneurs. And I hope that's you. Because when you find your voice, it means that you have the courage to admit what you want, to write it, speak it, and do it. Yes, it means actually taking that courageous action and stepping forward and doing it. And often we cannot do it alone. We actually need someone to walk beside us to help us get to where we want to go. So if you're in that place, please reach out. I will have my next Speak course starting June 5th, and I'm there for you to help you get started. We dive deep into all these things that help us, number 1, believe in ourselves, believe in our voice, and really do it from an authentic place, to stop trying to be anyone else. The only way we can really speak and show up on camera is by being ourselves. You know, we get so tripped up when we try to be someone else or like someone else. But be you, because that's when you're going to connect with your ideal person and your audience on the other side of that camera or on the other side of the microphone. So I'll put all the details here in the show notes, and I'd love to help you join me. I will also do a one-on-one coaching session just to help you kind of figure out really what that thing is for you, what you're trying to do, and help give you some pointers so that you can move forward. And as I have shared, we all need coaches. No matter what level we're at, we are all trying to get to that next level, and we need people that have gone before us to help us get there. And I've shared that my podcast and business coach is Stephanie Gass. She has some incredible programs. One of them is Podcast to Profit. She really does it from a business perspective. If you've started your podcast, she really helps you dive deep into really how to make it a business. And that's where I was. You know, we all have to start out and make these mistakes. And then we have to really learn how to turn it into a business and learn the not so sexy things behind the microphone. So all that to say, if you're just getting started, I'm here to help you start. But back to the Her Turn to Podcast. One of the reasons I went is because my podcast and business coach, Stephanie Gass, was actually speaking. And as I shared before, and even on my interview with Stephanie, I was introduced to her through Kathy's original program called Made to Do This. Stephanie was a guest speaker and was talking about podcasting, how to grow it, etc. And so I've just followed along with her all these years and listened to her podcast. And then when I got to this place where I really needed to get to that next level, I decided to reach out and have her help me move forward. And it's been the best decision I've ever made. Anyway, I keep diverting, but I want to share some of my takeaways because I think there's some really powerful golden nuggets for you all. If you have a podcast or you're wanting to start a business, I just want to empower you and just help you realize that we all start really messy. We always think that we have to have it all together, that we have to do it perfectly, that we really have to know exactly what we're doing. And that is so far from the truth. And when I heard all these women on stage talk about their journey, they just did it. They did it super messy. And they're still continuing to grow and learn because none of us ever arrive. And anyone that tells you that they have all the answers, they're the expert, it's just crap. It's not truth. You know, the truth is we're all a hot mess. We're all learning. We're all growing. We're all trying. And we're constantly in beta. We're constantly trying and learning. And Kathy talked about that with Apple. No one does beta better than Apple. They're constantly trying new things and doing market research. And, she said, they hand you this phone and you go, great, here's this latest Apple, whatever phone this is or whatever device you're getting. Enjoy it because in 2 years we're coming out with a better one. Right? That's just the way it is. And it takes away all that mystique and fear that we think we have to have it all together. We don't. Okay, so here are my key takeaways. Now, I've actually broken this down by person, what they said, the things that I took away from what they said. So with Kathy, she's the one that organized this whole group. This is her event, and she's just an amazing connector. She's really empowering on stage, very commanding, but she also has such a heart to collaborate with other female entrepreneurs, and she does it really, really well. And so the first thing she said was choose collaboration over competition, right? That is just such my heartbeat. And she went on to say that the best leaders don't have all the answers. I just talked about that. They are just willing to lead. They're willing to be the first. They're willing to take that courageous action and just do it. And they're really willing to be vulnerable. And Brene Brown talks about that a lot, right? And anyone who says they have it all together, have all the answers, is absolutely full of crap. So if someone is selling you a program that tells you that, run for the hills because they don't. So let all of that go. You don't have to be an expert. You just have to be willing to come alongside of someone and help them through your own experience, what you've done, the mistakes you've made, what you've learned. And the key is just to be vulnerable and be real. That's the secret, right? That's the secret. And Peter Drucker once said that in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert's mind, there are few. Pretty powerful, right? So be open, be a beginner because you see all possibility. And Kathy said, the best leaders make leaders. She also went on to say that you can't get what you don't give. So find your person, find your coach, find your community, and lean into it. Then really think about what's in your bag. What is it that you do super well? What gift has God given you? If you aren't giving yourself good things or the capacity to receive, then there's an incredible block. But be aware because your mind can be a very dangerous place to walk alone. Isn't that powerful? So make a decision. Make a decision for what you want. Kathy went on to share a quote from Kendra Scott, another one of my favorite female entrepreneurs, who said, one day she just decided that she was going to be a billionaire. Wow, pretty powerful, right? If that's your goal, pretty powerful. It's amazing what we can accomplish when we set our mind to do something. The next person I want to share some things I learned from is my own business and podcast coach, Stephanie Gass. And I shared just a few because I actually just did the interview with her on the previous episode. I think it's episode 84. I highly recommend that you listen to that because Steph goes all in and gives so many amazing golden nuggets. You'll really learn a lot from her. But at this podcast summit, I love what she said. She said, when someone tells me I can't do something, inside I say, then watch me do it. And I just smiled so big inside and was just cheering her on because that is so me. In fact, in my book, I have a whole section that I talk about this. When someone tells me I can't do something, I literally inside say, watch me do it. So that was a fun takeaway. She also said, don't take yourself so seriously. And she is truly so good at doing this. She just does not take herself seriously. And that is what makes her so real and what makes us be able to really connect to her. But she also said, let go of all the things that you can do and go super micro niche. Serve and teach. What is it that you do really, really well, better than anyone else that you know? That thing that comes so easily. Because so often it comes so easily to us that we don't recognize it, right? And then she said, then teach what the transformation will be. Because we're all trying to figure it out. We're all trying to help others. And you have something in you that you can teach and really help someone move forward, and focus on that. Don't focus on all the other things. Focus on what you can teach and help someone move forward with. She also went on to say that you have permission to pivot. None of us are where we were when we first started, and it's so easy to get stuck in our own head and be limited. But I have shared that you just can't be married to your title of your podcast. Hence, I've changed mine now twice, and I'm going to dive into that a little bit more. But we need to just let go and move on and not be stuck in all of that, because we are constantly growing and changing, and it's okay. It's actually extremely normal. So you have permission to pivot. Then Jacqueline Snyder had some really cool things to say. She actually has a physical product. So her podcast really speaks to those who have physical products. Her podcast is The Product Boss. So really kind of different perspective, really fun. Having grown up in an entrepreneurial family where there was actually a product or a service, this was really informative and really great to listen to her. But she said, be adaptable, be willing to change. There's the theme again, be willing to change. Focus on your gut instinct that really matters, and then focus on what you're really good at. And then she said, when you start your podcast, decide what the tone will be. Tap into who you are and just be you, which is what I was sharing earlier. And like I said, this is something I actually teach in my course. She went on to say that we get so tripped up when we try to be like someone else, but God gave you the idea and you the gift. So just be you. It's that simple. The client just wants a solution. They want to know how to get there, wherever there is for them, faster. Next was Julie Solomon. She was so fascinating. I was really captivated by her. I really wasn't that familiar with her, but her podcast is called The Influencer Podcast. She has a really great story, and God told her to stop trying to be the best and just be the only. How powerful is that, right? Like, how can you be the only in your own life? But she came to that crossroad when it was time for her to be that for herself. And she had to put down her own shame and be vulnerable. And she went on to say that our biggest weapon is shame. And that thought process or that loop just really keeps us stuck. I've learned that for myself. And that just really requires some deep work to really let go of that. And she said, when we step outside of ourselves and just focus on the transformation, not the pain, people just want to know what's possible. They want to know that they can go from where they are now and get to a healthier place, a happier place, like where you are, and they want to learn from you. So one of the things that was really incredibly fascinating for me is that she said, your mess can be your message, but it doesn't have to be your business. And wow, that just kind of stopped me, because we hear so often from the gurus, especially like Dean Graziosi, who says, make your mess your message. And I've had that tape playing in my head for a long time now. But I think that's possible for some people. But she said, at the end of the day, if we're swirling in our own mess, if we're not healed, if we're not outside of that, that can't be your business. Your business is what you've learned along the way. It's what you've learned to get to where you are now. It's what you know. It's what you can teach someone. It's the tools and the tips you've learned to get beyond it. That's what your business is. And for me, my common thread has been to speak my truth. It's been finding my voice and having the courage to step forward and be vulnerable, to write my book, to show up here behind a microphone, to show up on camera, to share some of the pains in my life, and to be vulnerable so that you can learn and grow too. If you've been following me for a while here, or you read my book, Step Forward, I share the different things I've been through in my life. Those 10 shoes that I created are the shoes that I had to step into in order to step forward with my life. And it's confidence, tenacity, resilience. It's letting go of a lot of shame, stepping into those battle boots to step beyond that fear and doubt and those things that held me back, and embracing what's possible, having fun, being flexible, and then radiating my light out into the world. And that's my goal for you too. At one point, I thought I wanted to help women step beyond the failures in their marriage or the brokenness, but it's about finding your voice and being able to speak what you need and what you want, and how that applies to your personal life, all your relationships, your marriage, and your business. It's helping women find their voice inside of them and to speak their truth. Does that make sense? For me, through my parents' divorce when I was young, through my eating disorder, through sitting in a classroom and knowing the answer, but being so afraid to raise my hand. I was a really good student. I was a straight A student, but I was afraid I was going to get it wrong. My perfectionism kept me stuck. That need for approval kept me stuck. And so I had to let go of so much of that and trust my own inner knowing and my own spirit, and let go of what others think of me. Let go of being rejected, let go of being shut down and not really caring what other people think anymore. But having that voice and that conviction inside of me, if someone's being disrespectful, to speak up and say, no, you can't talk to me like that. I will be happy to return to this conversation when you can say that in a different way. Or be willing to say, no, I don't want to do it that way. I want to do it this way. Or no, I'm not going to do that with my business. I'm going to do this. Does that make sense? And that's my goal for you, is to empower you, because how you show up in your own life, how you show up with how you speak to yourself, how you speak to others, shows up in how you show up on camera, behind a microphone, and in your business. So it matters. It's so important to empower yourself, to speak your truth, because it affects everything. And when you change it, when you change how you talk to yourself and how you talk to others, it changes everything in your life. The other thing that Julie went on to say is that we all have to be willing to receive. It's our birthright to be seen and heard. You've all heard me say this at the end of every podcast. You are seen, you are heard, you are loved, you are valued, and you belong. So my ears really perked up when she said that. And she said, if we aren't open to receiving, we won't receive growth in our business. We won't see growth with our clients, our finances, or in our relationships. And I thought that was so powerful. Julie Solomon has a really powerful story. She went on to say that she grew up very, very poor and struggled with money for most of her life. So she definitely had these money issues. She even got herself into $30,000 worth of credit card debt and was lying to her husband about money. And suddenly she realized that she just had to do some work and face herself. She could not go on living like this. And she had to admit that she really had these issues and step into a wealth mindset and realize that she was worthy of receiving. Because as women, we don't really talk about money, do we? A lot of us are afraid to talk about it or say we deserve this, right? And I don't know what kind of family you grew up in, but in my family, money was like taboo. We didn't talk about it. It was always a secret. So that plays into it too. So she was just a gift. I highly recommend that you follow her podcast. It's called the Influencer Podcast, and she's just darling and has so many great things to say. And she's a boss. She has an amazing business. She's doing 7 figures as well. So the next person was Sarah Milken. She is married to the Milken family, so super funny. She's a midlifer, kind of rediscovering herself. That's what she's all about. And she's a little crass, but she's hilarious. She wasn't even on social media until 3 years ago. And so she was just trying to figure herself out, what the heck was happening to her life, her marriage, her body, her kids who didn't want to have anything to do with her anymore. And so she's very candid and talks about the things that we probably all think but are unwilling to say. She's definitely worth listening to. She went on to say that if you want someone to love you, be imperfect, because the art of perfection pushes other people away. But if you want people to relate to you, just be who you are. Be imperfect. Say the things that we know that people are thinking but are afraid to say. So she's just super raw and real about her life and all these things I just talked about. But she really dives into midlife and menopause and what's happening. And her podcast is called The Flexible Neurotic. I highly recommend you follow it. You know, she just went on to say that at the end of the day, we're all really just a hot mess. So she's really uplifting and just kind of a breath of fresh air. And she'll make you laugh a whole lot. Next is Patrice Washington. Her podcast is Redefining Wealth. And wow, this was another surprise and delight. She is just amazing. She's beautiful, articulate, and just had the best things to say. I had so many takeaways from her. And she really talked a lot about coming into the power of your boundaries, to set boundaries. You're not a doormat. And she said that starting a business is better than therapy. I can relate to that. because suddenly you're faced with all your crap. You're faced with who you are, that fear, that doubt, that feeling small, not feeling qualified. All those things just come rising up. And I've said that about writing a book as well, because all of a sudden you're putting yourself out there and you have to deal with all these issues that you have about your own limitations and that imposter syndrome that just rises up inside of us. But she said that self-worth drives everything we do. And she talked about her story. She has a really powerful story as well. I mean, she's beautiful. She's tall. She looks like a model. But she said growing up, her family told her she was ugly. And just the trauma that caused and how she's had to really do some deep, deep work and learn to love herself. And her coach was Lisa Nichols. I don't know if any of you know her, but she's amazing. And I highly recommend you follow her too. So Patrice just had some amazing nuggets of information and insight. You could tell she's really done a lot of work. And I just absorbed everything she said. She said that we first have to believe that we're capable, that we're qualified, and that we deserve to do this, meaning the podcast or your business or whatever that is that you want to do, that we often stay small and hide behind what we really want. But she said that every book she's written, with every book, with every podcast, with every coaching session she's done, she's come home to more of herself. And being an entrepreneur is really a self-discovery journey, and it requires radical honesty. Wow, so true. You have to get real with who you are, because if we're not honest, we're going to stay stuck. We are not going to go where we actually really want to go or where we deserve to go with our business or our life. And she went on to say that when we're not authentic and we don't speak our truth, we become bitter. And it is so true. That is such a mic drop. When we speak our truth, we stand in our power. Next is Terry Cole. Now, I've been following Terry Cole for a long time. She's a psychotherapist. She's amazing. Her podcast is The Terry Cole Show. Just amazing. So many great insights. And she's also written a book called Boundary Boss. Highly recommend that for any woman. So good. She went on to say that most of us teach what we need to learn or what we have learned. And if you aren't willing to tell the truth about who you are or how you feel or what you want, and she too emphasized that bitterness will really grow, and really pause and think about that, because it's a very, very powerful statement. We have to show up and just be who we are. That's the only way we connect with other people on the other side of this microphone or in our life, right? And then she talked about being an overachiever or a people pleaser. Often we will just shut ourselves down and we just continue to do more to seek that approval. And bitterness actually grows inside of us. And I know for sure that's me. That was me for sure. And that's why I believe in really being honest and speaking your truth. Because when we're not, the only person we really hurt is ourselves. And then she dove into being a over-functioning codependent, and I'm probably one of them. She really helped Kathy Heller through some of this, and I remember listening to one of the podcasts about it. Really, really insightful and powerful. And she said what happens with over-functioning codependents is that no one checks on us because they think we'll be fine. I don't have to worry about her. She's fine. But we're not, right? And for sure, that's what happened to me in my life. And that was a huge aha and takeaway, because when we're highly functioning codependents, we're helping everyone else and we look like we have it all together, but inside we're not. We're hurting really badly. And she talked about letting go, just letting go of the control, letting the chips fall where they may, especially when they're not our chips to carry, right? Wow, just such a huge takeaway for me. And it's really none of our business or not our problem unless somebody comes to us. And then we have to decide what our personal boundaries are. What are our own personal rules of engagement? And for her, she said what this means is, what are your preferences? What are your desires? What are your limits? And what are your deal breakers? And I've really dove into this. This is such a powerful exercise. This can apply to your business and to your personal life. And then we need to learn to speak them and communicate them to those around us, those that we love, in our personal relationships and in our business. Really, really powerful. So I hope you listen to that. Take a moment and write those down. What are your preferences? What are your desires? What are your limits? And what are your deal breakers? And if you're entering into a relationship or a business deal or anything that you're stepping into, if you've created this list, and let's say you're entering into a business deal and not all these boxes are checked, then it's a no. And I remember after my husband had a couple failures with some partners that he created this list. And when he stepped forward into the next one, if it didn't meet all these certain criterias, it was a hard no. And that will just save you so much time and pain if you create that list and decide what your hard no's are, because it just protects you. And that honesty helps the other person on the other side too, right? You really are setting expectation. It's just a really empowering exercise to do. So highly encourage you to do that. So those are some of my key takeaways. I hope you have a notepad or a journal and wrote some of this down, because there are some golden nuggets woven into all this. And I want to empower you and encourage you to choose you. Speak your truth. Your truth has power, and your truth will lead you forward. When you speak your truth, you're going to step forward with your life. It changes everything, honestly, and I've learned this the hard way. And I think I'm going to do an episode on how to speak your truth, because so often we just don't even know how. And depending on how you grew up, we often think that when we're honest about expressing our feelings, it's just going to push people away. And maybe in your life, people did leave when you spoke your truth. But at the end of the day, the only person you hurt is yourself. When you don't speak your truth about a business transaction or a relationship or how someone hurt you or whatever that is, the only person you hurt is yourself, and it creates so much bitterness. It's okay. You can say your truth in love, and it's not your job to make sure that person on the other side understands it. That's their job. That's their work. But your job is to take care of you and be honest and set up the right expectation. It creates healthier relationships. And trust me, I've learned this the hard way. You're not here to keep everyone else's fire warm. You're not here to please everyone else. You're not here to do everyone else's emotional work. You're not here for people who aren't assigned to you, those that you're meant to lead and help and guide. So it's okay if people don't agree with you or like you or understand what you're trying to say. It's okay. Those are not your people. So let go. It's all good. Keep stepping forward. Keep becoming more of who you are. And know that you are seen, you are heard, you are loved, you are valued, and you belong. Have an amazing day. Until we meet again, may God truly bless you. Thank you so much for listening in. I hope you have a few takeaways that can empower you and help you step forward with your life. If you need some additional coaching, I offer one-on-one coaching, and I'd love to set up a call just to make sure that we're a good fit. So reach out and DM me on Messenger, and I will get back to you. I also have an upcoming class called Speak. It is a live 6-week course that I do on Zoom, and it is intended to empower you, to help you feel confident when you speak, not only in your own life, but on camera, on video, and if you want to start a podcast. So our confidence with ourselves and how we speak and communicate to others has power and impact in our life. So I will post all of that here in the show notes. And again, thank you so much for being here. Keep stepping forward.